Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to the Ted Lasso Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and I'm thrilled to be here talking with y'all today. Now, folks, if you're like me, you can't get enough of Ted and the gang over at AFC Richmond. That's why I'm here. To dive deep in every episode of this wonderful show and to share my thoughts and insight with all y'all lovely folks out there. We're going to laugh, we're going to cry, and we're going to have a hell of a time doing it. So grab your biscuits, settle in, and let's get started, shall we, with this episode of Ted Lasso, Episode 3, Season 3, Episode 3, titled 4-5-1. This episode came out March 29th, 2023, directed by Destiny Ekaraga. In this episode, Richmond adjusts to an expecting change. The Zava era has started at AFC Richmond, but Jamie has reservations as he no longer is the best player on the team. Ted learns there's someone new at back home in Kansas. And Rebecca meets her mother's psychic in this episode. A great episode. We are getting... this episode definitely takes a lot of jumps forward in time. There is a montage that happens in this episode where we're starting the season, and now we're... I don't know how far into the season by the end, but a lot of time passes in this episode as we are in the Zava era at AFC Richmond. But let's get started in this episode. We have Colin, who we don't see much in this show. I mean, a little bit from the first one. He's had a little confidence issues, right? He's got his mantra, but we're getting a little bit more of Colin in this episode as he's waking up, right? I don't know if it's his house or his partner's house, but he wakes up and says goodbye to his partner before heading out to AFC Richmond. Right, a same-sex partner. We're finding out that Colin is a gay man, which is great, right? The great aspects of this show really sprinkling in all of the realistic versions of human experience that exist. Right, gay athlete. Let's make the fascists out there cringe and cry and complain about how Ted Lasso is so woke. But once he gets in his car, his little supercar, right, and takes off, you have the theme music of the episode starting, which is cut short as he runs into the trash cans trying to pull out of the driveway. It's so great. And before he takes off, he says his little words of affirmation, "I'm a strong and capable man," right? And just as the "yeah" from the theme song, he runs into the trash cans. Kind of a great use of the intro song, having like kind of that record scratch moment. And a character we really haven't seen much, or at least spent much time with in this series so far. So, right? And right away, they're making him likable, lovable, all of these things. Cut to... reporters at AFC Richmond eagerly awaiting Zava to show up for his first day at Richmond. You have the coaching staff has decided who will be sat down. Like, obviously, new addition to the team. So who's going to sit down with the addition of Zava? And they decide Colin is going to be the easy choice. Roy mentions that Colin is a chameleon and he'll easily adapt to whatever situation we put him in. So kind of a plus, kind of sad that Colin is being benched, but also, still also a compliment to that he is very well adaptable. He's willing to take on new situations. So kind of makes sense that this episode starts with him in some ways. The decision then leads to who's going to be moved back, because we have our two aces at the front. They have the 2-4 was it 2-4-3, 2-4-4? I forget the formation they had. They mentioned in the last episode. Obviously, the title of this episode, the 4-5-1, refers to what the change is going to be. But they decide, having to decide between Jamie and Danny. They choose Danny, obviously, because he would take the news the best. Danny is definitely the most positive character in this, and really seems like Danny's character in this season isn't like in the previous seasons. He's been, I mean, when they got him, he was the second ace. Like, he's this great player, and he seems like he's not, like, definitely the writing of his character seems like he has been downgraded on some level, especially in the last episode where he accidentally scores the goal with his face. Still a great character, still funny, still like has this like innocent charm to him, but it definitely seems like his abilities as a soccer player are being downplayed more in this season. So they choose Danny because he, take the news better, but also Jamie is kind of a fragile little bitch. As Ted compares him to his mother's figurine collection. Higgins shows up very nervous about the arrival of Zava. The entire gang, Ted, Beard, Roy, Trent, and Higgins, list all of their all-time favorite Julie Andrews films. I forget how that actually came up. Roy is a massive fan of Julie Andrews, and Trent picks the Queen Clarice Rinaldi from the Princess Diaries as his favorite, to which blows Ted's mind and gets a fuck yeah from Roy. So Roy clearly, the issues that Roy had with Trent, clearly in the past, he is completely fine with Trent. Although there are moments in this, there is an event in this, the end of this episode, that may change the way Trent is viewed. And the reporter, the guy that is passionate about breaking news, may put him in a different light with the coaching staff and the players. But we'll get to that at the end of the episode. The team are just ogling over Zava's welcome locker room. He's got, like, in the corner of the locker room, he has like 4 lockers, each having the spelling out his name on the top, and having like a TV in the corner that says welcome Zava, like really giving him the royal treatment in a locker room. 4 lockers, a corner space, like a very, very hoity-toity kind of a thing for Zava. And they all kind of take turns telling everyone how much they love Zava. And then it turns into them going gay for Zava, which obviously Colin, we know, is gay, but also clearly closeted. But at the end of that little spurt of conversations, he says he's convinced to have sex with him. And they're all like, yeah, it's funny. Right? In watching this episode, I was expecting this is going to be the episode where Colin comes out. Spoilers, this is not the episode where Colin comes out, but it is clear that that is going to happen, especially at the events at the end of this episode. But just setting up Colin. I assumed this episode would be more centered around Colin, since it started with him, but it is just setting up for what we will probably see in either the next episode or an upcoming episode, I'm sure. Jamie walks in and has a very different reaction to the Zava shrine that exists in the locker room. Ted pokes in to tell them to head out onto the field to start training, and telling Jamie he needs to, well, actually not to train because the whole press conference is about to hopefully start when Zava arrives, and tells Jamie to hurry up and change. Right? You don't want to keep our newest player waiting. Cut to the impending press conference. Everybody waiting, right? Just a crowd of people in the stands. It's not like the stands aren't full, but there's a ton of people in the crowd, fans in the crowd. You have a bunch of reporters waiting to interview him. You have the entire team is out there waiting, including Rebecca and Higgins and Keeley. Rebecca's pissed, wondering where he is, and wants Higgins to double check and make sure that he actually signed the contract. So Higgins goes to leave to double check on that. Keely's kind of trying to find out what she can via social media and, tracking his accounts down to find out where he is. Rebecca is already worried that he may have changed his mind again. And as we know, he is one to change his mind, playing for 14 different teams in the last 15 years. He is somebody that doesn't stick around long and thinks maybe this is some kind of record that he's breaking. We also have Shandy, Keely's new hire for her company, is also there. And finally meets Rebecca, but is told to go by Keely to go when she go to the merch table and sell things for half price, right? Let's clear this out because who knows what's going to happen. Then you have Ted pops over from where he was sitting with the team, worried that maybe Zava got the wrong address. And Higgins finally comes back and says that the e-signature is binding, but instead of signing his name, he wrote, "You're welcome." So they're like, okay, it's still unsure if he's going to show up, if this thing's legit, right? Rebecca ends up deciding to leave along with Ted and Keely and asks Higgins to tell the crowd something, right? Tell them, who knows. It's been hours, and he hasn't shown up. And Higgins has no problem with that. He says that his DJ name was Damage Control. And Keely's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a DJ." He's like, "Well, I never got to do it, but I had that name just in case." But Higgins is always like, he's always a good dude. I love Higgins. So they go to Rebecca's office, and of course, there Zava is sitting at Rebecca's desk, mentioning how there's biscuit crumbs everywhere. And finding out that he left everybody for 2 hours. They're like, what the hell are you doing, right? And he reminds them that, time is nothing but a construct, like gender, right? This is not, like, these aren't things that we should be worrying about. And he kind of gives a poetic intro to Ted, telling him he's like the rock, and that Zava is the rock, and he's ready to be molded by Ted. Then is introduced to Keely, the head of PR, and he apologizes for making her job hard, not showing up and all that. She's very forgiving. But then also disagrees with her statement that there's no such thing as bad press. Right, that's not really my thing. I don't like the negativity. Like Zava, despite being very much like definitely the best player, definitely somebody who knows he is the best player, but also has he's still generous and understanding. I wouldn't necessarily say he's humble, but he isn't like a complete asshole, right? He's not treating people like assholes. He's trying to be nice, but at the same time, he is also acting like a prima donna. Higgins comes in and is introduced as the director of football. Zava grabs Higgins' face, presses his forehead to Higgins, and tells him that he is the glue, which is a moment that almost made me cry because Higgins is the glue. He is, in many ways, the guy that keeps everything together. And like the Christmas episode that happened last year, so great, where all the players who aren't from there went over to his house to share. Or Thanksgiving, was it Christmas? Thanksgiving, maybe? No, it was Christmas. To share that holiday with the Higgins family. Loved it, right? And when Zava gives him that respect, it's like, yes, that is so true. And a great statement. And then Zava leaves to go meet the team, despite not knowing his way around. And after he leaves, Ted is very impressed with Zava and rushes after him. It's like, I need to go show this guy where the team is because he's just going to be wandering around. Ted ends up getting to the locker before Zava does, and the players kind of start freaking out when they find out that Zava is there somewhere in the building, right? Everybody's a fanboy of this guy. And just then Zava enters, right, and everyone is kind of frozen and in awe of like, oh, he is here, he's here, he's right here, he's in our locker room. And Danny calls him an angel and asks why he's, and then one of the players, I forget the player's name, asks why he downgraded him because he is a god, right? And then you see Zava kind of, facing the team, but standing directly in front of Ted. So throughout this whole thing, you're seeing Ted kind of peeking out from behind Zava, like, oh, I'm still here, like, but excited, not like offended by Zava standing in front of him, but also showing how big Zava is compared to Ted, where Ted's just kind of peeking out from behind. It's like, oh, I'm still here, guys. Don't, like, this is good stuff, right? Funny. As Zava begins to address, he's like, I want to talk to the most important person in the room. And everybody's like, who is the most, who does Zava think the most important person in the room is, right? Everybody's freaking out. And he's like, the Kit Man, where is the Kit Man? And it's so great that Zava has this respect for the Kit Man, right? Because if Nate was still there, considering Nate started off as the Kit Man, and we saw how Nate was treating the new Kit Man, the guy who replaced him, really treating him like garbage, which in many ways is how Nate treats himself and thought of himself in that position. As we've seen Nate, how he gets confident, usually looking in the mirror at himself and spitting on himself, right? Like he really, in order to get confident, he just really just destroys that person that he used to be, where he came from. And Zava coming in with that complete and utter contrasting appreciation of the Kit Man. And of course the Kit Man's like, whoa, yeah, okay, I'm here. And Zava points at Jamie, like when he's before the Kit Man shades, like, is it you? Are you the Kit Man? Jamie's like, what is this? As if Jamie didn't have enough reasons not to like this guy. He's taking his shine, he's taking the spotlight, and now like Zava in his eyes, like, oh, I'm the Kit Man. Have you not seen how ripped I am since from the last season? I've been working out, man. I'm a Kit Man. What are you talking about? And Roy notices the look on Jamie's face as well and kind of gives a smile like, oh, like, because Roy knows it got under Jamie's skin. And then Will, the Kit Man, kind of makes himself known. And Zava says, I started the same as you, as the ball boy. And like this, his passion, right? The passion the ball boy, the Kit Man has is the reason why he plays, right? And the whole time he's still standing in front of Ted as Ted keeps peeking out from behind him, right? Like an excited dog. Zava then addresses the teammates, his brothers, and he's like, he wants them all to breathe with him. He is very much into meditation, as we will see later on, and he wants them all to breathe with him. And Zava takes in a giant deep breath, and as he exhales, he is exhaling very, very, very slow, which is a type of breathing exercise. Like there's a breathing exercise where you take I think it's supposed to be like a minute or 30 seconds. You're supposed to breathe in super slow and deep, and then you're supposed to exhale so like the entire breath in and out takes like 2 minutes. And his exhale is taking forever, and everybody else is almost hyperventilating. Like everybody else is taking like 10 breaths in the moment. Zava is taking this one deep breath, which is also hilarious. And then he says, we are now one, right? There is no me. There is no you. There is only we and the us and the winners. It's like he says, like he's clearly, like he is this next level guy. in like he is different than everybody and has an energy that is so like such a well-written character, right? And not coming in like some pompous asshole. Like they could have written this character, right? He is somebody that is very much up his own ass in ways, but also it has been able to develop this thing where he treats people with respect for the most part, you know? Then he just kind of walks off into the coaching office and closes the door, right? He's just like, whoa. It's just like this. They were in the presence of Zava. And then you see Ted, Roy, and Beard, all the coaching staff, follow him into the office, and they see Zava staring at the game board where they have their little magnets in the 2-4-4 formation, which is, you know, the fundamental formation. Roy said, we need to go back to the fundamentals. We don't have Nate anymore. Like, we need to just do the fundamentals and just keep from losing, right? Because that's all they don't have. It is so clear that the coaching ideas came from Nate, and now that Nate's gone, they are kind of just struggling to know how to keep this team from being relegated again. And you see Trent Krim in obviously the office he shares with Roy that's adjoined to Ted and Beard's office. And you see him taking notes. And Zava asks which one of the magnets on the board is him, and Roy and Beard kind of nudge Ted like, you should answer, like, I'm not, you answer him, right? And with all the confidence of Nate, which is not much to say, the early confidence of Nate from season 1, Ted says the top right or the top left, like, but stuttering, and like whichever one you want, really. Like, basically how Nate had acted before he learned confidence is how Ted is acting in the presence of Zava. And then you see Zava, who's just like this big dude, kind of rearranging the board. They can't see it. Everybody's trying to peek around to see what he's doing to these magnets on this board. Right, and then you see when he steps away, you see that there's the one magnet on top, and all the other magnets are kind of bunched together in a ball in the backfield. Right, this is all you need. Right, just need me, and the rest of the people, they can just be there to protect the goal or whatever. And they look over at Trent, right, whose only comment is like, he's tall. Right, that's the only thing Trent has to add to that. As if the coaching staff wasn't already like ineffective in general, now it seems like Zava is going to be like, this is the Zava show now. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to talk about, are you looking to add some unique and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe? Look no further than the Many Faces series by Ray Taylor. That's me. These abstract paintings on paper explore the endless possibilities of the human face, capturing unique expressions of emotion, mood, tone, and energy in just a few minimal features. Now you can bring these stunning and thought-provoking pieces into your own space with high-quality prints and t-shirts, featuring designs from the Many Faces series. Or take home a one-of-a-kind original piece for your collection. Don't miss out on this opportunity to add some original and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe. Head on over to InspiredDisorder.com to browse and purchase original artworks, prints, and t-shirts from the Many Faces series today. And now, back to the show. Cut to Rebecca showing up at her mother's psychic, right? Mentioned in I think it was the previous episode. Her mom wants to set her up with her psychic, and of course, Rebecca is not into it, but she ends up showing up anyway. She comes in and asks if she wants any kind of a drink, tea, cocktail. Rebecca makes a joke that's saying she wants a white Russian, and the psychic fires back with another joke saying that, oh, she's all out of Kahlua. She was hosting a Big Lebowski party the other night and completely ran out, right? So kind of firing back and forth with some jokes. Then she starts kind of accurately describing Rebecca's issues. And she's kind of like, whoa, right? Talking about her divorce with Rupert, talking about her relationship with Sam, the age difference, all of these things. Rebecca's like, how does she know this? And of course she knows this because she's been speaking to Rebecca's mom for like the last every month for the last 6 years. So of course she knows all about. It's no psychic ability. It's just her mom's gossip, right? Then she tells Rebecca about the art of kintsugi, right? The process of repairing ceramics traditionally with lacquer and gold, right? Leaving the gold seams between the broken pieces exposed to kind of highlight the cracks, right? Highlighting the damage that makes the piece stronger. And in many ways, highlighting your imperfections and understanding and accepting your imperfections, kind of a good thing in general, and something that this psychic is kind of pointing out. Right, but then also telling her, like, she shows her this bowl. She's like, "Put your hands on the bowl, right? Let's do some mystic stuff right now." So they both put their hands on the bowl, and then she starts to like channel someone and repeats like "shite in nining armor," right? She's like, "What is that? Shite in nining armor, lightning, thunder, and you're upside down." But you're safe, right? She mentions a green matchbook, right? And Rebecca's like gets up to leave after like just this nonsense that doesn't make any sense. And she's about to go, and she's told that she's going to have a family. Rebecca's going to have a family, right? You're going to be a mother, right? And Rebecca tells her like, "Fuck you," right? She always thought that she was kind of harmless, right? Her mom can afford to throw her money away. She can easily afford it. But now she thinks this psychic lady is dangerous and fucking cruel, right? And Rebecca leaves. She's like, "This is ridiculous." Cut to Keely and Shandy sitting down with some of the players, right? They got a lot of interviews lined up. And Sam's like, "Good. I'd love to get the word out about my restaurant," which we saw him purchase at the end of last season. But of course, they want interviews with them because the reporters want their thoughts on Zava joining the team. And Danny's like, "Oh, I'd prefer to talk about Zava any day," right? Danny, we find out, is a super fan of Zava. In this episode, Danny becomes like, Danny wants to be Zava in every way, mimics Zava in every way. Right? And Keely's like, "You just need to be honest, right? Doesn't matter." And Shandy's like, "Well, if you want to, you should actually be outrageous, right? Right? Just to make the interview go viral." Right? Of course, Shandy with the kind of bad advice, but trying to get things to go viral. Say something wacky, right? Like you eat hair or something. Roy ends up coming in to let Keely know that he'd be willing to do interviews as well if she needs them, despite the fact that he doesn't like doing interviews. Like, he's willing to do it for Keely, right? And in that moment, Shandy offers to interview him. She's like, "Okay, let's do this. I'm going to interview you," and starts asking him why he dumped her friend, right? Just right there, right? And you see the other players in the room just give a solid ooh. Like, this is getting in. She's fiery, man, getting right at Roy. And Roy's like, "Who the fuck is she," right? Finding out she's Keely's friend, and they work together, and Keely's told him about her, and Roy asks why, like, he's reminded that Keely told him about, like, he's reminded that she told him about him, and then he remembers, like, oh, she's the one that used to eat her own hair, right? Right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm finally happy to put the face with the hair," right? And really kind of digging at her, but she doesn't care. She's like, whatever. Cut to Jamie wanting to talk to Ted and Beard, and Roy walks in. Jamie warns that he knows a lot of players like Zava, and they're just selfish, absorbed players, like only wanting for themselves, which Beard says is him kind of being ironic. Right? Well, that's very interesting coming from you, Jamie. And then Ted suggests giving it a couple games, right? Right? But thanks, Jamie, for being open. It's like, well, let's give it some games. We'll see what happens. But thank you for coming to me, being open. They like the communication, obviously building the sewer channels so everybody can let their sewerness go into the ocean. And on his way out, Jamie tells Beard that he wasn't being ironic, that he was being hypocritical. And Beard's mind in that moment is blown because Beard, the intellectual, clearly, I would say, out of everybody. And Jamie, not necessarily, but in this season, definitely feels like Jamie has taken a turn, is also right, like accurately correcting Beard. Which Ted points out that it was actually ironic for Jamie to be right about correcting Beard. That it was ironic for the guy that's normally dumb to be correct and Beard, who's normally correct, to be wrong. Cut to game day. We have Higgins, Keeley, Rebecca all settling in. Keeley is stoked about how Zava's has increased attendance at the thing. She's like, yes, this is amazing. Right? As the coaching staff lays out the plan, which is basically give Zava the ball, feed the ball to Zava, whatever you do, get him the ball, right? Isaac tells Colin, or asks Colin if he's okay, right? He's being sat down. Colin says he's still a strong and capable man, and Isaac's like, yes, you are, right? So I clearly this episode isn't going to be as much about Colin, but he's still maintaining. There's still clearly a love. Isaac being the team captain, making sure he's okay. There's still a connection, still a love there. And so everything goes to Zava. As Ted goes to point to Zava, he realizes Zava in his little corner shrine locker area is meditating. So Ted quietly brings everyone around in to try, and then to do their little, put your hands in, well, let's get this done, and is trying to get Zava's attention. Jamie's like, screw this, and just gives out a giant whistle. Still doesn't work. And Zava's finished meditating. He gets up, and while everybody's hands are kind of in the center, Zava just walks to the center, so now everybody's hands are just on him, right? Is the part of the thing where the humble nature of Zava is gone, and he definitely acts as if he knows he's the deity to come and bless this team with some wins, right? So everybody's hands are on Zava, and he yells Richmond on 3, right? Still, he's not saying Zava on 3, still we're brothers, but let's be real. I'm at the center of this. So everybody's hands are on him. Richmond on 3. Everybody leaves super stoked. The coaches are super impressed. They're like, whoa, everybody's he's like, he's a strong guy. Except for Jamie, of course, who's the last to leave. And he's very unimpressed. The look on his face, this is like, okay, this is ridiculous stuff. So before heading out with Beard, Ted wanted to send his son a good luck. His son's got his first match back home. He wants to send him a good luck text, but he forgot his phone at home. And as he's trying to call his ex's cell phone from the office phone, he realized that he forgot her number. And asking if that's a good thing or not. But then he decides to call the house phone instead, where cut to the Ted household with his ex-wife and his son, and this new guy is there asking, as the house phone rings, asking why she still has a landline, right? He offers to answer it. It's like he thinks it's a telemarketer. She thinks it's a telemarketer because those are the only people that call landlines. It's like the people that have landlines. It's so mind-blowing. But he's like, I'll answer it, right? He's like, watch this. I'll answer it. Right? And then he answers doing a Trump impression. And Ted plays along, as Ted does, and says that he's got a bone to pick with the former president. And then the dude on the phone realizes that it's Ted. And he's like, oh, shit, right? Putting the phone away. He's like talking to her. He's like, it's Ted on the phone. It's your ex-husband, right? And he hesitates before introducing himself right? Dr. Jacob, right? And Ted is kind of taken aback when he realizes who this is, right? Jake tries to pass the phone off. Ted gets to talk to his son for a moment, and his ex says that they should talk later after the game, right, when they both have time, right? So kind of a fast situation. Ted is able to talk to his son. We are realizing that Ted probably knows who this guy is. This guy clearly knows who Ted is. And Ted, like Dr. Jacob, so we find out that this guy is their marriage counselor. So not like just a family doctor that is now in this family. It is the guy that was at one point trying to, quote unquote, help keep the family together, is now dating his ex-wife. So not the most professional psychiatrist. But before the start of the game, Ted definitely seems concerned. He's got sweaty palms, right? Maybe we're seeing a panic attack about to come, right? Zava stares at the opponents, right? He's on the field just staring at the opponents, right? Midfield, ball right in front of him, just staring at them, reading them, right? And calls Tart over, and he's like, brushes off some lint off of Tart's jersey and tells him to get open, right? I'm going to look for you. I'm going to find you, right? So it's right away, it's like he's like, I'm going to get you involved, dude. Don't worry about it. But as Ted on the sidelines is having a panic attack, he's closing his eyes, his hands are clasped together like he is about to freak out as he's about to break down, knowing that his his wife is now with their family therapist, right? He is freaking out just in that moment. You have Tart passes to Zava, right? Tart kind of gets the ball, passes to Zava, and on the first kick from midfield, he kicks the ball and scores the goal. Roy and everyone else explodes seeing this, like the very first thing, this new guy from midfield just punched the ball and bounces right in the goal, right off the bat, scoring a goal. Like, no better way to like make your first appearance at this new team. Everybody exploding, fans in the crowd, the coach is Ted shaken to life by this. Ted didn't even see it happen, right? He was it like shook him out of his potential panic attack that he was having as Zava scores this goal. And Ted is shaken back to reality. Kind of an amazing, they're like, oh, and Roy's like, oh, I could get used to this. This is going to be great. Cut to this montage that happens where we're now fast forwarding through the season, right? We've got Richmond flying up the rankings. Like, we're cutting to this ranking sheet where Richmond's constantly winning and moving way up the rankings, right? Then another game with Zava scoring a goal with a scorpion kick, which is crazy to see, right? You have the shot of storefronts that sell Zava merch with a sign. All the merch for Zava is sold out. You have the Zava cut to Zava leading group meditation with the team, and Jamie showing up late and kind of seeing this and like just immediately walking out. Cut to Ted stalking this Dr. Jacob on Facebook. Cut to Zava flying over everybody to head in another goal for Richmond, as now they are in 5th place, right? The season is flying by in this montage. Finally, we see Nate at his desk reading an article about Richmond being on a roll, right? Cut to Rebecca lighting a candle in her kitchen and realizing that she does have matchbooks, and opening the drawer in panic, looking through the variety of different matchbooks he has, seeing if she actually has a green one, which she doesn't, right? Cut to Roy walking past Keeley and Chandra in the hall at Richmond, and she doesn't even notice him. She's like, Roy's like doesn't even exist to her anymore, right? Cut to Colin in the locker room, replying to his partner on his phone, text messages, asking him when his partner's going to be back from Dubai. Because when they left at the beginning of this episode, he was going to Dubai for a few weeks, few months. So probably if I had paid attention to that, I would know exactly how much time has passed in this moment, because he is coming back soon, which of course Colin is stoked about. Cut to another game where Tart is about to score. And just as the ball is about to go into the goal, Zava comes in and kind of gives it a kick, really just to take that point away from Jamie. So not really bringing Jamie into the game as much as I thought he would at the beginning of the very first game. Cut to seeing Danny mimicking Zava in his celebrations, really just mirroring everything Zava does, right? Cut to Roy noticing Tart's face after that play, right? Just seeing that he's just the look of disgust on Tart's face. We see Richmond is now in 4th place behind Manchester United at 3rd, West Ham at 2nd, and Man City at 1st. Cut to one of the fans in the pub excited about getting a job. Cut to Sam tasting a new dish at his restaurant. Cut to Ted FaceTiming with Dr. Sharon, where we find out that Dr. Jacob was the family counselor. Complaining about how he would say sorry about how the way in which Dr. Jacob would say sorry, but our time is up, like implying like your time is up with your relationship, and Sharon then saying that Ted, the time is up, and Ted's like, no, it's not really. He didn't really say it like that. It was more condescending, and then she's like, no, Ted, sorry, it's our time is up with this session, Ted. And Ted's like, oh, man, I'm sorry I didn't get to ask any questions about you. I've just been so busy chatting. And then she just ends the call. And he's like, oh, geez, okay. Cut to, right, this is still in the montage as time is flying by. Cut to pundits saying that the coaching isn't what's winning Richmond. Obviously, winning for Richmond, it's clearly Zava. Obviously, the coaching staff, shown in the first couple episodes that they are very ineffective, really just relying on the team to figure it out on their own. And now that Zava's there, it's clear to even the pundits that Zava is the reason, comparing it to the coaching of Nate, who they do have a lot of respect for as a coach. So the differences between West Ham and AFC Richmond, Nate being the coach, the leader of that team, AFC Richmond clearly being led to this massive winning streak by Zava. Cut to, again, Zava kicking in another game-winning goal with a bicycle kick, right? Taking off his shirt, celebrating, climbing up on the side barrier, right? Opening his arms to the crowd as he's cheering. And you see, right, his back turned to the teams, and you see Jamie look up and sees that Zava has a tattoo of himself on his back with his back facing, like the exact kind of image that Jamie is seeing Zava do, but tattooed on his back. It's just the most ridiculous tattoo, right? Cut to Rupert cussing out the TV, right? Seeing how well this team is doing. And in that moment where, Rupert's watching the game, cussing at the TV, camera pulls back to show that Rupert is sitting right next to his wife and his kid as he's cussing out the TV. Hilarious. Kind of a maneuver that the show Arrested Development would do a lot. A great punch for a lot of the jokes in that show. Whereas somebody would say something, usually about a character, and the camera would pull back to reveal that character is sitting right there. Let's take a quick break right now to talk about, are you a fan of original artwork and live events? Look no further than the Many Faces series by Ray Taylor and the weekly live stream over at youtube.com/inspireddisorder. This ongoing series explores the endless possibilities of the human face through abstract ink paintings on paper, capturing unique expressions of emotion, mood, tone, and energy in just a few minimal features. Join me every Thursday at 4:20 Pacific Time as I paint live. Follow the Many Faces series and discover the endless possibilities of the human face. Don't miss out on this opportunity to be part of the action and own a piece of original artwork by me, Ray Taylor. Head to youtube.com/inspireddisorder every Thursday to catch the live stream, and visit inspireddisorder.com to browse and purchase the Many Faces artwork. And now, let's get back to the show. Right, so now Richmond is at third place behind West Ham and Man City. Right, they went from last place, now they're all the way up at third place throughout this entire montage. And then as the team goes back after this last win, goes back to the locker room, Roy asks Trent if he ever thought this book that he was going to write was going to be a fairy tale, right? And Sam invites everybody, super stoked at their win, invites everybody to his restaurant. He warns them that they're still working things out. It's not ready to open, but to lower their expectations, but there will be an open bar. So everybody's cheering. Zava enters the locker room and with Danny right behind him, just mimicking everything that Zava does in kind of a hilarious way, but it kind of makes me feel bad in some ways for Danny in some ways. Cut to later at Sam's restaurant, where his chef tells him not to serve her food with that stressed out look on his face. Obviously, Sam is stressed out. All of his co-players are there. All his teammates are there. And he's super stressed out about everything. And she's like, you better not be serving my food with that look on your face. You be happy when you give them my food, right? And everybody's complimenting Sam on the restaurant. Isaac tells him, right, in really an emotional way about how amazing his food is. Like, he's never tasted this food as good as it is. Like, very emotional, as I would imagine Isaac would be about some good food. You have Danny. He's only wondering if Zava is going to come because he made him a friendship bracelet. He finds out that he was invited. Sam did invite him. Not sure if he's going to show up. You see Colin's partner, Michael, showing up, and Colin introduces him as his pal, his wingman. So clearly not out. Partner knowing he's not out and playing under the guise that he is his wingman. Right? Cut to Keely asking Rebecca if she's going back to that psychic, and she said that she'd rather get religious if she wanted to throw her money away, which I thought was funny. Sassy Smurf shows up. Sam comes over to the three ladies, thanking them all for coming, right? As Sam's kind of making his rounds, greeting everybody, thanking them all for coming. I love Sam. I love this restaurant for Sam. It kind of feels like there's a little thing between Sam and the chef. You see Beard asking Ted if he wants a beer, and he mentions that Ted mentions that Jacob went on a horseback ride with his family, with his son. So Beard's like, oh, we're going to need some shots of whiskey. Gets a double, get us a triple, right? And then Beard's girlfriend shows up, comes up asking if he's cheating on her, and he's like, yes, I am, with you. And then they start making out, and Ted's like impressed with how well their baggage matches up between Coach Beard and this his girlfriend. Cut to Roy singing Jamie, all sad, kind of moping in the corner. He goes over to tell him that Jamie's frowning while they're on a win streak is not a good look. It's like, we're doing so good, dude. But obviously we know why Jamie's a little pouty right now. Jamie said Jamie says that Roy frowned his whole career, and Roy's like, no, I just never smiled. It's different, right? And Zava does show up, and Jamie calls him God's gift to those who have everything, which is and just proof that Jamie isn't quite all educated as he made it seem earlier. Roy says that Zava's the best player on the team, right? Clearly to get under Jamie's skin, but also it's true. And Jamie used to be the best, and now he's not, right? It happens. Roy knows about this, as we, last episode, the reason he left Chelsea is because he realized he wasn't the same Roy he wasn't the best on the team, wasn't necessarily replaced by anybody, but in this instance, definitely knew that when Jamie showed up to the team, how Roy became the second best, right? So Roy has experience with this, and he's being honest with Jamie. They have a very open, honest, it is in many ways in some ways a father-son kind of a relationship between them. There is a mutual respect there, right? So, and Roy's like, listen, you can still be, if he wasn't such a pre-Madonna, and Jamie corrects him. He's like, it's pre-Madonna, not pre-Madonna. And Roy's like, defines it as female vocalists didn't have to work as hard before Madonna. And Jamie's like, you're such an idiot, right? And he brings up Tina Turner, Stevie Nicks. It's like, what are you talking about? They didn't have to work as hard, right? And Roy brings it back to the fact that Zava is better, and he just needs to keep up. And Jamie's like, I don't want to keep up. I want to be better. I don't want to just keep up. And so Roy's like, okay, well, let's train. I'll train you if you want. If you really want, I'll train you. And Jamie's like, agrees, and he's like, we're going to start at 4 a.m. the next day, and slaps this meatball or whatever off of his fork. It's like, you can't eat this shit. And, of course, in that moment, one of the, I don't know if it's the chef or just one of the other people that work at the restaurant see it. I think it's one of, like, the waitresses. They're like, what are you making this mess for, dude? And Roy's apologized, like, I'll clean it up. Cut to Sassy. Right? Says she's going to take a lap around, see if Ted is going to be there, right? And if not, if Ted's not there, she's going to try and scale Mount Zava, right? Which Shandy sits down with Zava at Zava's table and tells him not to be a dick and to show more love on the socials, right? Shandy, no shame, sits down with Zava. Listen, bro, you need to hype this team more that you're with. We need this. And, of course, he respects her confident energy, right? Rebecca sees Shandy talking to Zava and asks Keeley how Shandy is fitting in. And Keeley loves how not shy she is, right? Which is, a positive thing to pull. Doesn't seem like she's really doing any sabotaging of Keeley's business, right? So far, maybe that'll show up later on in the season. Then Rebecca sees Sam laughing with the chef. And is kind of burning a hole in his head. So Keeley notices that and looks over at Roy, who is leaving, right? They're both looking at their exes who, one, Rebecca dumped Sam, Roy dumped Keeley. And then she sees Shandy go talk to Jamie, right? So Keeley... Right, they're all, Rebecca and Keeley are like, oh, all of our exes are here. What are we doing? Except for Rupert, obviously. And Keeley decides to give a toast to Rebecca, right? There are bigger things ahead than we are leaving behind, right? Perfect toast. Rebecca's like, oh, that's so refreshing. Cling, take their drink. Sam goes over, thanks Zava for coming, right? He asks Zava asks where they source their avocados from, and Sam's like, West African cuisine doesn't use avocados, and Zava's like, not yet, right? Okay, whatever that means. And he's leaving. Ted runs into Sassy and mentions his ex is dating their marriage counselor. The same chef has a gift for Sam's chef has a gift for him to give to all of his friends who came, right? So he starts handing out these gifts that his chef had specifically made. And as he hands them to Keeley and Rebecca, we see that it is a green matchbook, which blows Rebecca's mind, right? No, this can't be. The psychic is like, what does this mean? She didn't have green matchbook. Now her ex The person that she probably still likes, Sam, gives her a green matchbook. What does this mean? What is going on? Right? It stuns Rebecca, right, and decides to do some shots with Keeley, right, because the prophecy is coming true. She's like, I can't deal with this right now. And as Trent leaves the restaurant, Trent Krim leaves the restaurant, walking down the street, down one of the alleyways a few blocks away, he looks down and he sees Colin making out with his quote-unquote wingman, right, down one of the alleyways from the restaurant, and that's how we end this episode. It is clear that at some point Colin's sexual identity will be revealed. I'm assuming it's going to be Trent who does it. I'm assuming the team is going to be accepting. I have a feeling Trent will get blamed for that, which is a bummer, but that's kind of the character he is. It's in his nature to report on things. Maybe that will be something that he has finished his book. He has a draft of his book, and he gives it for somebody to read, Ted or Beard or somebody's like, I want to read it. It's going to come out. Assume it's going to come out. As far as this prophecy with Rebecca, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I'm assuming it's going to happen eventually. I'm assuming it's going to be, there might be a love triangle between Sam, Rebecca, and the chef. Who knows? But Zava has skyrocketed the team to third place, right? Doesn't seem like a massive asshole outside of kind of taking Jamie's goal. Is really the only thing that was asshole-ish that he's done. And also having a tattoo of himself on his back. You have Jamie teaming up with Roy, kind of like Rocky 4, right? They're going to go to the snow. They're going to chop logs. They're going to go run up mountains. You know, they're going to do, there's at some point going to be, I guarantee there's going to be a training montage with Roy and Jamie. Would not be surprised if Eye of the Tiger is playing. But Jamie is determined. It's inspiring him to get better, which is great. I have a feeling Zava is going to go to West Ham, but I think Jamie is going to have improved enough to where he takes Zava's place, and the team's going to come together. And I think Zava going to West Ham is going to really fuck with Nate, because Zava respects and loves the Kit Man. Zava is not somebody who will be talked down to that Nate does. He will probably see that Nate treats the Kit Man like shit. There will probably be a big blow up, and there will probably be a moment where Rupert gets rid of Nate. There's going to be a moment where Rupert has to choose between Nate and Zava, and he's going to keep Zava and send Nate. And that episode is also going to be the episode where Nate and Ted bury the hatchet and Ted brings Nate in. That is my prediction for what's going to happen. That is how my prediction of Nate, his redemption story, coming back to Richmond is going to play out. And with Nate's coaching, with the new Jamie Tart, maybe even with a new Danny, we're going to see the original team of Richmond play against West Ham for the finals. And bada bing, bada boop, they win the trophy. They win the whole thing as the original core crew. That is what I'm predicting with this season, to add to my predictions at the start of this season. We have Ted still dealing with his ex, moving in, the whole time jump. Despite the time jump, he's still fixated on the fact that she is dating this Dr. Jacob guy. His panic attacks are still present. We have Rebecca, clearly, I have a feeling going to start to buy into her mom's psychic predictions. We have Sam, who definitely seems like he has a connection with the chef. And the restaurant, I'm sure, will be a hit for him. But I think there might be a love triangle. Maybe Sam decides to go with Rebecca, and that will lead the chef for his restaurant to leave, causing that to possibly be an issue. Like, I think that love triangle will at some point become an issue. We have Nate, obviously aware of Richmond kneeling at his heels. We have Trent, seems like he will be just one of the ones to out Colin, right? Who's been benched since Zava's joining. So it might be like piling on of Colin. We may see in the next episode Colin not doing too well, not really handling being benched, and then maybe the addition of being outed by Trent Krim even piling on to that. Maybe a dramatic episode involving Colin. Wouldn't be surprised if Isaac plays an important part on supporting Colin in that moment. He definitely is aware and concerned about how Colin is taking just being benched. So I expect that episode to be more about him, right? I expected this episode to be more about Colin. Clearly, it's doing something to set up. So maybe there's going to be an episode where we get more about Colin while other things are happening. But as one of the main plot lines of an upcoming episode, wouldn't be surprised. Danny worships Zava, mimicking him in every moment. Kind of diminishes Danny, as I said before, who was their second ace and now is just a fanboy, relegated to being a fanboy. And it's a bummer. I want better for Danny. Maybe Danny, if my prediction of Zava leaving and Jamie being the headliner of the team, maybe that will also bring Danny up and bring him back as more of a contributing member to the team. Still no movement necessarily on Roy and Keeley front, although it definitely feels like Keeley has moved on, right? Even if Roy changes his mind or has the realization that he made a mistake, by the time he tries to get back with Keeley, it may be too late. I have no idea. I don't know if there would be somebody to replace her, or maybe she's just not ready for a relationship. But I have a feeling that when he does, it definitely feels like she's moved on. It seems like maybe it will be too late for him. I hope they don't do Colin dirty, but it really seems like that's what's going to happen with Trent Krim. And when I was doing my predictions early on, I completely forgot about the Rebecca and Sam love affair, which I definitely see that coming back. But I think that the chef is going to play as the third in a love triangle potentially. Maybe an episode will pair it up with Roy trying to come back to be in a relationship with Keeley, right? Roy trying to get in a relationship with Keeley, Sam and Rebecca trying to get a relationship together. I could see them pairing that up. And it may be with Colin as well. There might be those three storylines going on in one episode. But I could see them pairing that up because they are definitely similar things. And obviously Keeley and Rebecca have a relationship, so it'd be an interesting dynamic how they're both dealing with like these past loves coming back into their life. I have a feeling Trent will find a way to be the villain for this season. And I wonder if Sassy and Ted will be a thing. I would love that for them. I would. And like maybe that's Ted stays. Maybe Ted finds a reason to stay and it's Sassy. I would love that for them. Despite it really feeling like they have a casual thing together, but, you know. Maybe if Jamie gets a good start to, you know, he starts to outshine Zava, right? I could see Zava going to West Ham. I already mentioned that. But I love all these characters. I really don't want this show to go, despite the fact that I'm glad it is going to be able to wrap up in 3 seasons. I'm going to miss it. But, you know, we're only 3 episodes into a 10-episode season. Next episode will be episode 4, Big Week. Everyone's feeling the pressure as Richmond gears up to play West Ham. So all my predictions may come to fruition in the next episode. Ted is reunited with an old friend. Ooh, who is an old friend of Ted's? I don't know. What old friend. Maybe it's a character we don't know about. I don't like, as far as Sassy, maybe an old friend, but I wouldn't say. Maybe it's somebody from his past coming, gonna reinvigorate maybe the coaching staff. Who knows? Be interesting to see who Ted's old friend is. Either way, that is a wrap on another episode of the incredible show Ted Lasso in this recap podcast. Y'all have been tuning in. I couldn't be more grateful. If you're loving what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing and leaving me a review. I want to make sure I'm hitting the bullseye every time I step up to the mic. Now, I know y'all have opinions, and I want to hear them. Reach out on social media at Ray Taylor Show on IG, TikTok, and Twitter, and let me know what you're thinking. What predictions do you have? I promise to read every message with the same enthusiasm as Ted coaching his team to victory. And finally, I can't wait to get back with y'all next week for another deep dive into the world of Ted Lasso. So until then, stay curious, stay kind, and stay gold, folks.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.